Everton 3, Newcastle 2, and honestly, I haven't stopped smiling since full time. I've been thinking about sitting down and calming down, but instead, I just put the camera on, and we're going to talk about it, and we're going to break down how exactly Everton managed to beat Newcastle despite not really having the ball at all. And the first thing we're going to look at is this. This is the setup from both teams on paper before the ball was kicked, and a lot of people thought it was going to be Voltemade up front with that person at left wing, but instead it was more so this, with Voltemade in midfield, Joe Linton at left wing, and that person at up front. And that presented a different type of problem for Everton, because Voltemade is a player that doesn't really move and just generally stays in these zones and always wants the ball to feed, and that allows Newcastle to then play into him and then look to utilise him as some sort of a turnstile just to get play moving, because they've struggled this season with getting the ball into the final third and dominating and creating from central areas. And that was something that Everton had to deal with in order to get anything out of this game. And we're going to go straight away. We're going to go to this in the first couple of minutes in this game. And what I noticed was that obviously, you see that Voltemade is in this deep position with Gordon, I'll say it, up front. Tonali kind of stepping out of centre midfield to press with Tonali on the left wing here. But you can already see that Kieran Dewsbury-Hall isn't really worried, because he's already looking over his shoulder to check where Beto is, making sure the distance between himself and Beto remains quite short, because it's a route to goal centrally for Everton. And this was something positive, I thought. Is a bit brave. Instead of Kieran Dewsbury-Hall coming deep to try and force the easy pass, he stayed in his position and allowed Tonali to leave him and press the ball. And next, we see that the left-hand side of Everton had some real diversity in how we approached things, because you can see that Beto has actually drifted to the left, and that was actually a question going into this game, with David Moyes kind of tongue-in-cheek hinting at Beto's ability to play left wing. And obviously he played up front in this game, but in this instance he went to the left wing. But what I liked about it is that Everton looked to have an overload in this part of the pitch, and Njai as well coming in there as well. And what you can see is that Njai, as a left winger, is more central than Dewsbury-Hall, and they were all rotating in this moment. And what that does is it forces so many Newcastle players to surround the ball, and then all the way on the other side of the pitch, you've got somebody like Dwight McNeil kind of staying out of it, but is an option for a pass if you want to switch play, or because there's so many options, you can play these quick short passes and drag Newcastle out of the position they've set themselves in and the structure they're trying to achieve. And that was a positive for me, because it showed some tactical flexibility that maybe we haven't done, and maybe it was a problem against Man United and how we struggled to break them down. But the good thing about this was that it massively made gaps when it came to their centre-backs, because they were forced to move over to that one side, and it created gaps in places there shouldn't really be gaps, places that Newcastle will absolutely want to avoid any gaps happening. And you can see here again, Dewsbury-Hall making that run into the left wing, Iliman Ndiaye central looking to come for the ball, and then Beto looking to take up the space in between those two centre-backs. If we move it along here, we can see that now they're doing it on the right-hand side, and James Garner, I thought, was coming very close to Jake O'Brien, because he wanted to give him that easy out, because we know that Jake O'Brien as a right-back isn't extremely comfortable in this exact part of the pitch, so Garner would always come over and give him that short ball option, which means it was a simple pass, and Garner from there could then look to spray it or play it short, whatever he wanted to do. And it gave Everton a way of keeping the ball in the final third and looking after the ball, which is obviously, we weren't looking after the ball against Man United, and that's how we conceded. So it was nice to see that ironed out. Next, we go to this, where you can see again this left-hand side overload that Everton were trying to achieve, because you can see all of these here are on the left-hand side and dragging a lot of Newcastle players out of their position. You can see here all of these guys are coming out, and crucially, look at the distance between Dan Burn and Hall, the left back. I know this is not a centre back partnership, however, that's a huge gap. And what it does as well, because Hall has to make his way over centrally, it forces Joe Linton as a left winger to tuck back in, and now Newcastle's shape is all wrong really, because Dwight McNeil has moved all the way from this position into a central zone, And that led to something important that we're going to come to in a second. But Dwight McNeil in this area, you get a lot more out of him because he doesn't have to cut in when he gets the ball. He's already in the position he wants to be in. So meaning he doesn't have to take a touch, then look to predictably drive inside with the ball. If he's already there, it solves that problem straight away. And you can then look to get the best out of him. Next, we've got this, which I thought was interesting because with Anthony Gordon up top, it means that he offers dual threat really, because he can run in behind or he can come short, and how Everton managed that was always going to be crucial, because here you can see that he's made the run short and he's asking for the ball to feet, and James Garner and Idrissa Gueye are kind of aware of it, but they're so tight with Dwight McNeil also coming in that it makes that pass pointless, because all that can happen is that Dan Burn plays it and then Gordon plays the bounce pass back to him. So instead, they're forced to switch it out wide, and Everton being in that compact structure in the middle of the pitch, they're happy to let Newcastle have it in wide areas, because Everton back themselves with the height of the back four to win those aerial deals. And the aerial deal stats are ridiculous, by the way. We're going to come to it in a second, because that's a key part of how Everton won this game. The aerial deals and the ground deals. Absolutely dogged stuff from Everton, and made it horrible for Newcastle. Did not let them settle at all. But what did cause Everton slight concerns, and I feel like this would have been spoken about at half-time, was Voltemada's positioning, because as a midfielder but a natural number 9, he does appear in these positions, meaning that James Garner, as a central defensive midfielder, is always going to have to come over and shift across and cover and plug these gaps, meaning that spaces occur for the likes of Lewis Hall, who's a left-back, moved inside here to take advantage of that, and Anthony Gordon, who is kind of staying away from Everton's centre-backs because he wants the ball to feet and wants to impact the game through receiving it short and forcing Everton's backline to kind of misshape themselves in that way. And this is a great example of it, because they were trying to play through in the middle of the park into these zones, and that's what Everton wanted to stop. Happy to have the ball out wide, but did not want these balls to be played through the midfield line, because this is what happens and it causes problems. You can see Voltemada's got the ball here, move it one across, and we can see that the ball to Voltemada again here, this is a different one but at the same point, the ball to Voltemada here is very easy to achieve because Everton can't disrupt that the defensive line. And this is a similar example. Everton are struggling to prevent this passing lane from happening, meaning that Voltemada can get the ball, and now the shape of Everton's back line is very, very unsettled. You can see here how jagged and how poor that is from a structure standpoint, because Branthwaite has been forced to step up onto Elanga, who's coming from a wide area inside, meaning that it kind of forces people to take action. And obviously, nothing came from that really, but it was a concern that if Newcastle kept having joy from those moments, it was always going to look or become a difficult task for Everton to avoid scrambling around their own box. But this was all done with purpose, because Everton were inviting that pressure and kind of letting Newcastle come onto them. Against Man United, we didn't really do that. We looked to press aggressively, and we've looked to press aggressively at home for the most part. We did against Bournemouth as well. And this game is slightly different. We kind of let Newcastle approach us and see what they had to offer. And then just before this moment here, James Tarkowski settles on the ball, and Newcastle are invited. Their press has been invited. And James Tarkowski, through good footwork, then finds the ball to Beto, who does exceptional here. The criticism with Beto has always been that the ball comes back and he can't really take it down and control it, and the holder play has been an issue for him. But here, absolutely fantastic. Dragging the centre-back all the way out of position, meaning that, and also as well, Keane Hall being close, gives Everton that quick second ball to latch onto. And then what happens is you get these moments start to occur where Iliman Ndiaye, because Everton have transitioned, opposition can't really get back into shape, and then Elanga is far away from Ndiaye here, meaning that Newcastle can't do that winger fullback double up on Ndiaye, and this is what Ndiaye wants. He wants to be able to face centre-backs or right-backs 1v1. And granted, there's actually two of them here, if you can see, but Dan Burn 1v1 against Ndiaye isn't doing anything in the box. He's never going to lunge or do anything. As well, Kieran Trippier doesn't really want to be squared up by Njai because of the pace Njai has. And this moment is crucial because we won a corner from it. And the corners are obviously a big talking point because against Manchester United, we just looked to put as many bodies as we could on the goalkeeper, and it was ineffective. Lamens came and collected most of them, or got a hand onto them at least. But here, we can see that we kind of left Nick Pope alone. We kind of trusted ourselves to win those aerial duels. And you can see here, that Branthwaite with the head across, the little flick on was absolutely fantastic. This is an even better angle of it. Just the deft flick on to get there first ahead of Tonali, but to also guide it into an area that is the only part of the goal you can really put it into and score is fantastic technique. And Branthwaite and Tarkowski and O'Brien were all essential in Everton's aerial duels. And as well, I thought Garner was as well, winning those duels in midfield. And we're going to come and look at the stats quickly before we go back to this footage of the game, because I think that the duels show exactly who wanted this game more. And I'm just going to look at this bit here. Ground duels first. Newcastle, 36%, or 38%, I can't see. 38% of the ground duels they won. Everton, 62%. Almost double. Not really, but almost. And it just shows how much Everton were latching onto those second balls and making it difficult by winning those ground duels in midfield. You just don't let Newcastle to settle, or they will let Newcastle settle in the areas they wanted to settle. But once it comes into a central area or a dangerous spot, Everton were on them like a rash. And as well, aerial duels, huge part of this. 61% of the aerial duels Everton won compared to Newcastle's 39%. And it just shows that we had that grit about us, which you need when you're going to a place like St. James's Park. We made it so horrible for them, and they could not find a rhythm, really, and they kind of resorted to playing it into wide areas and into congested areas eventually. And Everton are happy to deal with those crosses into the box. It's what this team is all about. It's the strongest part of the team defensively, I would say, by an absolute mile. Let's go back to this now, and then what you see here is Newcastle, again, they're trying to build up, and they're always looking for these balls through into vertical areas. So you can see here, Jacob Ramsey is in that zone. So is Anthony Gordon trying to latch on, and as well, Voltemade. They've all taken up positions behind the Everton midfield to allow these balls to become quite viable in that sense. However, no problem. Not a problem at all, because the positioning of Everton's midfield, you see here, Gay here, Dewsbury Hall, Garner, you can even see Garner here is pointing to shift across, and that's positive because we essentially killed off all the passing lanes, meaning that the real passing lane, the only passing lane that was available is that one out wide, and that's fine. Happy to let them have it there because Everton was so set in their defensive structure. And next we move on to this, and this is the lead up to Newcastle's goal, and you can see here there was a change in tactics from Newcastle because this is Anthony Gordon at left wing. You see Voltemade has gone up top now, and that kind of changes how Everton look to approach things because Anthony Gordon, compared to Joe Linton, who was at left wing, Anthony Gordon is way more direct and wants these battles, wants to suck in Jake O'Brien to then attack that space. And what that did was essentially it meant that a lot of Everton bodies had to come over and cover this zone of the pitch, meaning that a lot of them, James Tarkowski just highlighted there, that he's had to come over and help deal with this, meaning that Everton are quite dragged all over to this side of the pitch and we're quite unorganised. Garnegay's got a tough role here because he doesn't know whether to go and press Voltemade just in case, because Dewsbury Hall isn't shutting the passing lane off quickly enough, or move across to Jacob Ramsey. And the distance Idrissa Gueye has got to cover this is too big because Tonali has already spotted that pass, and that's what led to the goal. That dismantling of Everton's structure is what caused us the problem, but didn't really occur for the rest of the game because Everton were exceptional in managing the game. And what we did as well is we attacked the space when we transitioned the play, and the touch before this moment, the touch from McNeil, world class. It was ridiculously good because it got him into that central position. So many times we've seen him take a touch and then look to move into a central position, but in this instance he uses his first touch to do it, which just allows him to quickly do it and then attack the space. And getting into this position to take the shot is what we want him to do because his left foot is exceptional. Okay, he's not got a right foot, but if you can get him into these positions to use his left foot, it can become profitable. And what we saw from that was McNeil taking a shot all the way outside the box, and it's going, well, it's not really going there, is it? It was going like here. But it was quite easy for Nick Pope to save, is my point. But you simply can't spill it. You just can't. You just can't. They tried to tell me this goalkeeper was the goalkeeper that would take away Jordan Pickford's England spot. I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Because what are you doing there? It just feels like he's doing a Superman impression. And listen, I'm 5'7". I'm never going to be a goalkeeper. I can't even fathom how difficult it is to be. But the positive about this is that Beto is aware. He's aware. Not a single Newcastle player has tracked Beto, meaning that he makes that goal for himself and gives himself an easy chance to tap in, yes, but instinct to make it happen is what allowed him to score that goal. And listen, I'm happy to see Beto score. It's good. We're going to come to Tieno Bari's goal, and to have both strikers scoring in the same game is absolutely positive for us, because how many times have we said we lack a striker? Well, both of them scored in this game. We'll come to how Tieno Bari's goal came to be, because it is one of the funniest goals I've seen. But again, we see here that Newcastle are again trying to dismantle Everton's low block. And you can see that Everton are just making that block all across the 18-yard box. And you see Iliman Ndiaye, for example, the left winger, is playing left back here. And Everton just made that wall across. And are happy to let Newcastle just play it in these areas, because they don't really see the danger from that. Because as long as the ball is in front of you, they haven't scored yet. And that's exactly the case. Then, we had this moment, and this ball definitely went out of play. I don't even know why I'm showing you this, because it would have been ruled out. I just thought it was funny how casual everybody, including Beto, was. He hit the bar, and it was almost a finish too good, because it went too high and hit the bar, of course. And I just thought it was a funny moment that it clearly went out. Nobody, not even the ref, pulled it back. The ref was stood right there. He saw it. But then we have to talk about how bad Newcastle were, to be honest. I've just talked about how Everton missed a one-on-one chance, and Everton were by far better than Newcastle in this game. This is Harvey Barnes in Everton's 18-yard box. Why are you chipping that? I have no idea what the thought process were. It was almost like Newcastle were overthinking at times. I think he was trying to chip it into that back stick area there, but I feel like with the bodies Everton had backed, it would never have gone in anyway. And I feel like it kind of summarises Newcastle's struggles with getting into the box, but then also being effective when in the box. And again, we see it time and time again. Newcastle were kind of slow in possession. Lewis Hall here on the ball and kind of just looking up, not really looking to be impactful in his play. And a key part of this is Keenan Dewsbury-Hall's positioning. Listen, we can say that we want these attacking players to play as attacking midfielders in Everton's team. And obviously, Keenan Dewsbury-Hall, in my eyes and a lot of people's eyes, is a number 8. He's more of a box-to-box midfielder. But in that, you get qualities like this, where he's not even looking at the ball here. He's actually assessing which players are likely to become dangerous. And the key thing about this is that if he wasn't there, this would be the gap between the centre midfielders, between Gay and Garner. And that just massively invites a passing lane similar to Newcastle's first goal. But because Dewsbury-Hall has looked to plug that role and plug in that space, it just means that it's impossible. Meaning that Newcastle's play gets slowed down and we're all sitting there defending and the ball is ahead of us and it's fine and there's no threat. And again, like all the time this happened, where Tonali has his body language is that of to pass to a wide area. And that's because Garner Gay's positioning, he's coming from his left-hand side and all these holes have been plugged. Like, it's impossible to pass into a central spot here. The passing lanes are incredibly narrow or closed, meaning that the ball just goes out wide and Everton look to take their chances with the cross. Again, that's fine. Until something like this happens, where Joe Linton gets the ball and breaks that first line of midfield pressure from Everton with a carry and carrying through central areas as well. This is something that not a lot of players do, and I feel like this is going to be a key for a lot of Premier League teams moving forward when it comes to breaking down low blocks, beating the first line of the midfield press with a carry, because then that leads to this moment where, interestingly, This is Joe Willock's position. He started over here and he made the move away, which again drags Kieran Dewsbury-Hall with him. Meanwhile, Jacob Murphy is in this position over here, and that's the wrong tool, but we're going to stick with it. Jacob Murphy's there. That's the point. He's in space because all the ball pressure is being applied on this right-hand side of Everton's defence. And when that happens and the ball goes into the box, you don't really think about what's going on behind you or in a part of the pitch that initially feels inconsequential. And then Jacob Murphy gets this shot away. And it's a difficult one for Pickford because I don't really think he can see it from there, which makes it difficult. And it looked ugly. And I get it. It looked ugly. It looked like maybe should have saved it. But it doesn't matter because of something else he did coming up. And then the replays hadn't finished. And it just cuts to this. On the feed I was watching, it just cuts to this. And I'm seeing Iliman Ndiaye dragging Newcastle defenders out of their positions. But importantly, I'm seeing Tierno Barry all alone in the final third. What's going on? And before that, after that, Dewsbury-Hall makes that underlapping run, that thing that he used to do all the time with Grealish in the pitch. And like, when Grealish was on the pitch, Kieran Dewsbury-Hall would do this and make this run from this spot into this spot routinely, and it was working really, really well, and Grealish was the man finding those passes, and this is how you get the best out of Dewsbury-Hall, arriving late to then create, not by getting on the box and looking for him to unlock an entire defence. This is how you do it, and the finish from Tierno Barry, I mean, you ever seen anyone else score with their bum? I haven't. Like, he clearly has a variety of finishing techniques available to him, and importantly, he was in that position already. And to be honest, in my opinion, this was a foul. I feel like this was a foul from Lewis Hall, and we would have got a penalty had this goal not gone in. It's similar to the Szoboszlai one on Haaland, but it was kind of different because this was just one foul isolated, and eventually you just play the advantage, and we get the goal. But it wasn't done there because one man saved us. This save from Jordan Pickford is ridiculous. What do you mean that Tonali can hit it with that much power and Pickford can get one hand to it and still generate enough of a block on it to tap it onto the crossbar? How has that not broken his hand? It's ridiculous. If this doesn't win Save of the Year, Save of the Generation, Save of the Decade, whatever you want, it's a shame because it's ridiculous. That's a match-winning save in the 94th minute. And it was just world-class save. You do that save any time in a game, it's the best save you've seen in at least a month. And one person I also need to speak about is this man, Iliman Ndiaye. Smile from ear to ear here. Because he was fulfilling that role of winning fouls and just attracting all the Newcastle pressure to him. And importantly, he was looking after the ball. When we beat Manchester United 1-0 in November, Jack Grealish did this role. He got the ball, looked after it, won fouls, slowed the tempo down, made it incredibly difficult for Manchester United to get any sort of tempo and rhythm going. This is what Ndiaye did today. He did the role of two players today in essentially wasting time by not wasting time. This moment in particular, he was out on the left wing. He got the ball and he starts rolling it from one foot to the other, inviting that foul. And then we go on to win a corner, I think, or a free kick. And it just massively helps Everton, and it helps us be professional and look to seal out these wins. And I think that's a crucial part of Ndiaye's play, not only the output, but also what he offers you from a match-winning perspective, because there was a lot of different match-winning moments in this game, this being one of the key ones that I don't think will get spoken about. People in the comments, let me know, am I overselling this, or was it just as important? Because I really, really think it was. Ultimately, Everton come away with a 3-2 win. And honestly, to score 3 goals in a game is fantastic. We've now broken that 30-goal barrier that we take a while to break every single year. But now we're looking up. I think we have 40 points now. And we can really start looking up the league. It's just a shame that we can't play every single game away from home, because we are phenomenal away from home at these smashing grabs. Get the job done and win the game. Take the points and go home. That's what we should be doing. That's exactly how I enjoy to watch Everton. It's nasty for the opposition. It's horrible. We did really well. If you enjoyed that video and got value out of it, feel free to press the like button, leave a comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. 65% of the people watching aren't subscribed. So it would mean the world to me if you could press that button. Up the toffees.